You're scrolling late at night, eyeing sneakers that cost more than your phone. They look premium, but here's the truth. You're often paying for the story, not the shoe. Luxury brands thrive on scarcity, status, and perception, while quality isn't always the focus. In this video, we break down 8 brands that overcharge and 3 that truly justify their price. Let's start at the bottom of this list: common projects. The Common Projects Achilles Low is a genuinely beautiful shoe. Clean Italian leather, a minimalist white silhouette, a stamped gold serial number on the heel that the fashion world has quietly agreed to treat as a kind of secret handshake. It retails between $400 and $600, and for over a decade, the cultural consensus has been settled. This is the definitive quiet luxury sneaker. Here's what most people get wrong. They trust that consensus completely. They assume that if the fashion crowd agrees something is the best, the quality must justify it. But they're not actually evaluating the shoe. They're deferring to a cultural verdict built on aesthetics, not construction. The build tells a different story. Common Projects uses cemented and sewn outsole construction. Functional? Yes. Luxury heritage shoemaking? Absolutely not. There is no Goodyear welt. The shoe cannot be resoled. When the sole goes, the entire shoe is finished. At $450 or more, that is a significant structural limitation the brand's cultural weight has trained everyone to overlook. Independent footwear reviewers have been remarkably consistent. There are brands producing shoes of essentially equivalent quality for $200 to $250 less. That gap isn't going into better leather or tighter stitching. It's going into the brand's reputation as the originator of the minimalist sneaker format. You're paying for an idea, not the physical object in your hands. The gold numbers on the heel. That's the product. But if Common Projects sells understatement at a premium, the next brand goes in the opposite direction. Bigger, bolder, and even more expensive. Alexander McQueen. The chunky sole, the clean white leather, the slightly exaggerated silhouette that reads as expensive without announcing a logo. The Alexander McQueen oversized sneaker has become the default luxury adjacent choice for people who want the look without going full fashion week. It retails between $550 and $800, and influencer culture has done the marketing for free. Here is what most people get wrong. They see Italian leather and made in Italy on the tag and assume the price is justified. The calf leather is real. The Italian manufacturer is real. That is where the honest parts of the story end. Comparable quality from lesser-known Italian manufacturers exists at 40 to 50% below this price point. Independent footwear analysts have been saying the same thing for years: premium materials, but comfort that doesn't match the price, and a cost versus value equation that consistently fails. Then there's the fit problem. Reviewers routinely describe maddening inconsistency. 2 sizes, neither quite right, with heels slipping and toes pinching simultaneously. At $600, a shoe should fit the foot it was sized for. The brand's official website sits at 1.2 out of 5 on Trustpilot. And at this price point, the experience is part of what you're supposed to be paying for. And once you start looking past the branding, you begin to notice a pattern, one that Gucci has perfected. Gucci's heritage is real. Founded in Florence in 1921, genuine Italian craftsmanship for decades. And that heritage is exactly what Gucci is selling you, even as the actual product has drifted a very long way from it. The Ace and the Righton retail from $600 to over $1,100. The Double G logo is doing most of the structural work. Independent leather experts place Gucci at around 6 out of 10 for quality relative to price. Mediocre for a brand charging near 4-figure prices. Trustpilot reviews land at 1.8 out of 5, with customers documenting thin leather, chipping finishes, and product that deteriorates after minimal wear. The construction tells you something important. Gucci sneakers use cemented construction, glued, not stitched at the sole. When that bond breaks, the shoe is not repairable. For a product at this price, disposability should not be a design feature. When a brand produces at volume across too many product lines, no single item gets made with obsessive care. And that's exactly where Gucci is. Remove the double G from a Gucci sneaker and ask yourself what's left. That question answers everything, but heritage isn't the only way to justify a high price. Some brands rely almost entirely on hype, and no one represents that better than Balenciaga. When the Triple S launched, it changed fashion. The layered sole, the deliberate ugliness that became beautiful, the chunky silhouette that rewrote what a sneaker could look like. It was a genuine design moment, and credit belongs where it's due. The problem is not the history. The problem is what happened after. The Triple S now registers nearly 900,000 global annual searches. That is not a luxury product anymore. It retails from $900 to over $1,400, with an estimated production cost of $45 to $55. You are paying roughly 20 times what it costs to make. Balenciaga's response to mass cultural saturation was not to protect quality. It was to raise prices while the product quietly declined. The brand's Trustpilot score sits at 1.7 out of 5, with customers documenting soles that separate and materials that fail quickly. Here's what most people get wrong. They assume hype and quality move together. In luxury, they often move in opposite directions. When a brand achieves mass cultural saturation, volume is required to meet demand, and volume is the enemy of craft. You're paying $1,200 for a shoe that will feel aesthetically dated and physically exhausting within a year. Now, not every brand on this list built its reputation on sneakers. In fact, the next one is known for something completely different. Fendi makes excellent bags. The baguette is a genuine icon. The craftsmanship on Fendi's leather goods has earned real respect over decades. Fendi sneakers are a completely different conversation. The Fendigraphy and FF monogram lines retail between $700 and $900. The entire value proposition lives in the logo. Peel that back, and you have a sneaker whose construction and materials sit at mid-range quality levels, comparable to what you'd get at a third of the price from brands with no heritage markup. Here is what most people get wrong. They assume a brand's reputation in one category transfers automatically to another. It doesn't. Fendi's expertise is in leather goods engineering. That knowledge does not automatically produce a superior sneaker, especially when the sneaker is primarily functioning as a logo delivery vehicle. The resale data confirms the market's verdict. Fendi bags hold value. Fendi sneakers do not. When buyers who trade luxury goods for a living won't bet on the product, that's information worth having. And from there, we move into something even more explicit. A brand where the logo isn't just part of the design, it is the design. Versace. The Trigreca is pure status architecture. A Medusa head on the tongue. The Versace nameplate across the midsole. The Greca geometric pattern worked into the sole unit. It retails from $900 to $1,350, and every design element is asking you to look at the branding rather than at the shoe beneath it. There is no craft story with the Trigreca, no heritage argument, no durability case, no resoling program. The conversation begins and ends at the Medusa. For over $1,000, that is not enough. Reviewers describe wearing Versace sneakers as genuinely painful. Blister formation after 30 to 60 minutes, even after extended break-in periods. Versace's official site scores 1.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. When a shoe at this price actively hurts your feet, the brand story has completely failed the product. And maximalist logo sneakers have a shorter aesthetic shelf life than minimalist ones. In 3 years, the Trigreca will read as a specific cultural timestamp, and you will be wearing that timestamp on your feet. You paid $1,100 for a trend cycle. At this point, you might think it can't get more trend-driven, but the next brand proves that cycles can be just as powerful as logos. Isabelle Morant. The Isabelle Morant wedge sneaker is back. It was back before, and now it's back again. The silhouette is instantly recognizable, the hidden wedge is flattering, and the Y2K revival has given the brand a second wave of cultural momentum. It retails between $500 and $650. Here is what most people get wrong. they separate the product from the brand experience. At this price, the experience is a significant part of what you're paying for, and Isabelle Morant is currently failing on almost every metric that is not aesthetics. The brand sits at 1.3 out of 5 on Trustpilot. The complaints are consistent and specific: missing orders, absent customer service, failed refunds, and no accountability when items arrive defective. At $100, you might accept that risk. At $600, you should not have to. This silhouette has already cycled twice. You are not buying a classic. You are buying a revival of a revival, and that has a shorter shelf life than the shoe itself. Look at it. Admire the silhouette. Do not hand over $600 for it. And then we arrive at the most extreme example of all. This is the most brazen value extraction in the entire luxury sneaker market. And it works precisely because the premise is so surreal that people assume there must be something they're missing. Golden Goose sneakers retail between $450 and $700. The entire product proposition is built on a single audacious premise. You are paying luxury prices for a shoe that looks like it was found behind a gas station at 3 in the morning. The distressed finish, the scuffs, the cracked leather, the worn-out heel is applied by hand before the shoe ever reaches you. Golden Goose employs people whose sole job is to artificially dirty the shoe before it ships. That is not a manufacturing byproduct. That is the product. You are paying $600 for a simulation of what happens naturally to a $90 sneaker after 18 months of actual life. And here is what the brand does not want you to know. Independent expert analysis has found PU synthetic leather in parts of the upper, not full genuine leather throughout. For $600, Reddit communities are consistent. Golden Goose ranks as the worst quality to price ratio of any designer sneaker they've owned. Soles separate, stitching fails. The leather that was already artificially cracked begins cracking genuinely within months. The verdict is the simplest one on this entire list. Buy a $90 pair of sneakers, wear them for 2 years, and you will have a better product. One whose story is actually yours. Now, after 8 brands that don't justify their price, let's shift completely to 3 that actually earn it. The New Balance 574 does not feel like a luxury purchase. That is exactly why it is one of the smartest ones you can make. In 2026, the 574 has completed a full cultural rehabilitation. What was once filed under Dad's sneaker now sits at the center of the quiet luxury movement, partly because of the Olsen twins, partly because of a broader correction away from logo-heavy footwear, and partly because the shoe has always been genuinely good. It retails between $100 and $185. The 990 goes further. Partially manufactured in the United States, a meaningful distinction, with end-cap midsole technology, a suede and mesh upper, and rubber outsole construction using real materials rather than synthetic substitutes. It retails between $185 and $215. At that price, you are not paying for heritage mythology. You are paying for an actual shoe that does what a shoe is supposed to do. The resale value is stable. The style has proven itself across multiple trend cycles. And this is a sneaker that rewards you for wearing it instead of displaying it. From a brand that kept things honest, we move to one that's redefining what transparency in fashion should look like. Veja. Veja is the only brand in this market that has made full supply chain transparency a genuine core of its identity, and then actually delivered on it. Wild Amazonian rubber soles, organic cotton canvas, leather certified from responsible farming operations. The brand has published exactly what their sneakers cost to produce. 5 times higher than an equivalent mainstream sneaker. That cost goes into materials and labor, not a marketing budget. The Campo line holds a 4.3 out of 5 across more than 145 verified reviews on thing testing. It retails between $150 and $250. For that price, you're getting genuine environmental credibility, real materials, and a brand story that holds up to scrutiny. Something almost no one else in this category can honestly claim. Emma Watson and Meghan Markle wear Veja not as paid ambassadors, but as customers. That distinction matters more than it might seem. And finally, we end with a brand that strikes a rare balance: modern, minimal, and not yet overexposed. Axel Arigato. Axel Arigato is at exactly the right moment in its cultural arc. Credible enough that fashion people take it seriously. Not so ubiquitous that it has become a logo everyone is already tired of. The Slow Runner retails between $350 and $450 and has earned its price in a way most brands on this list simply have not. The construction is full-grain leather. The design philosophy is Swedish minimalism, restraint, proportion, and longevity over trend. These are shoes designed to look as good in 5 years as they do today, which is exactly the correct approach to a $400 sneaker. LAUS named Axel Arigato the top leather sneaker recommendation for 2026, ahead of brands with far more marketing spend and cultural history. For a buyer who wants European design credibility without the ubiquity problem, the Slow Runner occupies a genuinely useful position. Not so established that it reads as obvious, not so new that it requires explanation. That balance is difficult to achieve and worth paying for when you find it. Which brand surprised you most? Drop it in the comments.